Okay, hi. My name is Michaela Kimball, and I am going to be exploring art around the world today. Um, so, a little bit about the origins of art. Humans have been creating art since the very beginning of time. Art was first expressed in the form of cave paintings. The oldest known painting is a cave painting of some pigs made from ochre that was found in a cave in Indonesia, and it's nearly 50,000 years old. And although that's the oldest painting found, it's believed that art probably goes back further than that. It's just that's the oldest painting that we have found so far. So one of the first cultures I wanted to explore a little bit is Italy. And Italy was at the forefront of the artistic and intellectual development of the Renaissance period. So the inspiration for Italian art came from the classical Greek and Roman world. Some of the Italian artists that influenced the Renaissance era are Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael. And so I believe the painting in the background of this slide is a Leonardo da Vinci painting. And so this painting is called The Creation of Adam. And so over here we have God, and then it got whited out by my writing, but behind my writing would be Adam. So it's a beautiful painting, and it's very Renaissance-esque. The next culture we're going to explore is Mexico, and Mexican art dates back over 3,000 years, beginning with the Aztecs, Olmecs, Incans, and Mayans. And so the indigenous people of Mexico used to use feathers to create art. It was called feather art. And Mexican artists preferred to paint or sculpt realistic scenes of everyday life. And then you also have artists in Mexico who have no formal training, and they create folk arts and crafts known as artisania. And there was a huge art movement in Mexico called the mural movement. And so it was kind of a group of muralists who painted murals. And so some of those artists were David Alferez Siqueiros, Diego Rivera, and Jose Clemente Orozco. Orozco. So those were kind of some of the people in Mexico who influenced this time period. So over here you have an example of like feather art with the dragon, and then on the top you have kind of one of the murals that was painted, and you can see all the colors and the people, walking around town and celebrating. It's a beautiful thing. So the United States art history stretches from the earliest indigenous people all the way to the more recent globalization of contemporary art. Indigenous cultures crafted ritual and utilitarian objects that reflected the natural environments and their beliefs. And then, so that's the first drawing, that's the bird right here, which is the kind of where US art started out. And then after World War II, a new kind of art movement called the abstract expressionist movement became really popular. And so it was a movement that began in the US, but then spread to other parts of the world. And some of the artists that were known for that movement, especially in the US, were Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, William de Kooning, and Franz Klein. And so up the top here is a Mark Rothko painting, and it's an expressionist painting. And so that is kind of where the US went with their art. So some similarities that I found between cultures. One similarity that I noticed between these three different cultures is that art all originated in all of those cultures with the native people and the people who originally lived on the land. And although all of those native people are very different from each other, they, art all kind of started in the same place, and it started with the land and the earth. Another similarity is how they all started and then transitioned into this more modern style of art. And also just, I think another similarity I found is just how ingrained art is in each of these cultures. Some differences I noticed is that the story told in each of these artworks are very different. So the Mexican culture kind of depicts this very honest daily life with a lot more color. There's it's a community of people because there's a big emphasis on community in the Hispanic culture. And so you kind of see that in the artwork, whereas Italian art is a little bit more kind of dreamy and out there and softer colors and Renaissance-esque and life is all good, while the US had a much more modern approach with the expressionist movement, and it's just kind of the artists expressing their feelings with a lot of color and a lot of painting. And so it's really cool to see how each culture kind of expresses art just a little bit differently. The other part of art that I think is really neat is how art kind of plays a role in each of our individual lives. So for me personally, I'm a resident of downtown Fresno, where we hold this event called Art Hop about once a month, where we have local artists team up with local food vendors, and it's a space for the artists to show off and sell their art, and it also gets the word out about different food vendors. So you'll have restaurants open and show arts in restaurants, or churches open their doors and show the art there, and people walk around, and there's food trucks, and all the local shops stay open a little later that day, and so you eat good food and you look at art, and it's a great way to just support the local economy in Fresno. So I have really enjoyed living downtown and being kind of in the center of all that. And so I hear it going on, and it's fun to go out and walk and see just the artists in my own town. I personally have always loved art. I have loved drawing, and it's always been a part of my life. And I have had the opportunity to study art throughout all 4 years that I was in high school, and I have just absolutely loved it. And so it was such a joy to find out how art is expressed in different cultures. Thank you very much.